I think you pose a question whether there's something much more deeper when it comes to Southeast Asian politics, because you are right, you know. I always say this in my interaction or public rallies, that Malaysians are generally perhaps the nicest and kindest people in the world. Because if other people have a prime minister like him, I don't think he survived another day, literally. There would have been chaos, you know. Other people would have been on the streets, and I do not have to describe for fear that I will be taken or charged after this. But in other countries, if someone has done what he had done, I think he will be toppled. He will be toppled. It's just that Malaysians are just so nice over the years. And that explains as well, I think, a sense of invincibility on his part. Because he looked at the previous prime ministers and he felt that the systems had protected previous prime ministers from calamities even when they were in a much deeper problem than he is today. And I think he could always fall back to the sense of security that Malaysians, as people and society, as you point out, are not necessarily the gung-ho, the dramatic type of people. We will take time to sort things out, you know. Although I think things do change a lot. I would, although it's not an academic study or anything scientific, but I think the psyche of the Southeast Asians generally is because things, unless things hit you so badly on the ground that it really affects your livelihood, the politics or the questions of ruling has always been left to the ruling elite. It's just the feudalism that has always existed in our society, much in the same way that the Europeans took hundreds and years in order to get rid and go out of that feudalism. We have not. So it is quite common for society, and I think not just in Malaysia, but also in Vietnam, in Thailand, perhaps even in Indonesia, although they have reformed, for societies at large to basically abdicate the questions of ruling and rule to the elite, unless it really hits them. And that's why the ruling regimes of the Southeast Asia, including Malaysia, have survived all these years, because economically we have done rather comparatively better than some other countries. Which is why I think what is happening now perhaps is slightly different than the 98 crisis that Mahathir went through, or the 88 crisis that Mahathir went through with the split of UMNO. Because I was already alive in 88, 98, and I have a recollection of what happened in 88. I was 11 years old, 88, 98 I was already in university, 21. And although I can agree with Najib's sense of security that the political crisis in UMNO of 98 and 88 were worse, the difference is that it did not really hit the public as it is now. With the GST, with you know, our competitiveness going down, with the difficulty of getting jobs. You know, job security and job opportunities are the elephant in the room that Malaysians don't want to talk about, but it's the #1 concern of most families. It's very difficult to get jobs nowadays, you know. So, as opposed to the 98, 88 crisis in UMNO and political crisis, this time around, it really hits families. People really have to ration, and they really have to count what to spend. And that is a difference, because what you saw in Indonesia and in Philippines, the moment political crisis spilled over, that it affected the livelihood of the normal families, then they will change. And that's why I think, as much as I think perhaps we have some pessimism whether this is going anywhere or not, I think one way or another, Malaysia will change post this crisis, one way or another. what I'm concerned and most worried is that we will really fall backwards. Because if Najib triumphed, that means that it will be a recoil of all the reforms and progress we have made in the last 20 years. We will end up with real dictator, with really strong control of everything, and the public will think, well, we just have to live with this, just accept things. Or, hopefully, the change will be more positive, and then the public will think, and we will see some kind of reforms, to what extent we don't know, as we have seen in Indonesia and Philippines and some other countries. Because I think even the establishment in the civil service, in the ruling regime, more or less understand that if they push the limit too much, they may not be able to control the consequence of change. They rather manage the change, and that's the kind of traits that you have in Southeast Asian societies, including Malaysia.